Okay, so today we are talking about animal adaptations in our science lesson. Let's review something we've been talking about. What is an adaptation? Ryan.
An adaptation is something that an animal is like getting used to if it has to move to a new environment.
I heard environment, getting used to. Who can add to that? Elena?
It's kind of like Ryan said, it's a climate that they get used to.
Climate. So the weather can influence an animal or a human. Alex?
Like a dog. In the winter it grows extra hair to keep it warm, but now it's like getting in summer hot, so it's shedding its skin.
So a dog sheds its coat in the summer so it gets cooler. And Kenzie, tell us about your example with that.
My cat, she grew a whole bunch of hair, and now all over at my house with my cat hair she's shedding.
Which I understand that. You know, when it's summer, I put my hair up in a ponytail because it just gets so hot because I have long hair. Maybe some of you change the clothes you're wearing from summer to winter, depending on the environment out there. So do adaptations or change happen all at once for some animals? And who can explain that? Travis, you started to put your hand up. What were you thinking?
When they change, like if it's cold, they like sometimes black people have theirs going in the winter, and sometimes in the summer to keep cool.
So they have shelter to protect them, and we know all animals need what, including humans? It's part of our backboard there where we talk about needs. What are they? Yes.
Good, so it says needs and wants.
Food, we need.
Food, water, shelter, and
For humans, clothing, right? Animals need food. They need shelter of some sort, especially the babies. And they need water. Absolutely. Some adaptations evolve over time. Today we're going to look at a bird's beak and how we're talking lots and lots of time, the birds, their beaks have been adapted for certain types of food, and you all are going to try this out, boys and girls. Some of you are going to have beaks that are more suited for a certain type of food, and others of you will have beaks that are made for a certain shape of food. And we'll talk about, in the real world, what that food would represent. You're probably thinking in your mind of some birds. I want you to think, but don't say anything yet. For the activity today, to see what it's like to be a bird and how their beak affects their type of food, I want you to be using the hand that is not dominant. The dominant hand for me is my right hand. That's what I write with. So I would be using my left hand. So find the hand that you are not as strong with. Just because I don't want you to make this task super easy, I want you to be thinking like a bird. You've got to get the food, and it might be in a hard place to get. I will try to get all of you some type of beak, but I can't guarantee it. So for now, sit patiently, and I'm going to pass out the beaks. As soon as you get it, put it on the hand that is not dominant. Test it out with your non-dominant hand. For most of you, it's probably your left hand. Think of it as a bird's beak, and it needs to get food for its babies. Remember the babies yesterday when we were at the cemetery with their little mouths open? The rest of you, you'll be sitting and watching. I am now going to disperse or spread the food throughout the environment. There are lots of different kinds of food out there. And then we'll talk about what kind of food birds eat, and we'll talk about what kind of birds live in the same environment. Sometimes food can be hard to find. Ryan, can you think of a time that food would be hard for a bird to find?
would be hard to find if it was in winter and there was no food and there was snow covered.
Oh, so maybe I'll have some food here that's covered with snow. The bird will have to try and get it. So birds, those of you with beaks, this isn't a race to get the most food. You are just out looking for food with your babies. You don't want to get hurt because you have to protect your young. So you are now, you have nests. They are your desk. So when you get food, you bring it back to your nest. Nobody take anybody else's food. Sometimes birds do compete, but we're going to be nice birds today. We're just looking at our beaks. You may begin. Josh, you can observe them picking up.
This Foust. Like I see little baby birds.
Sure. So you're putting it in your nest. Do not use your good hand. Only the bad hand. Keep the other one away.
I got it under a marker. I got it under a book. Yeah, we do have it under a marker. Oh, I got it.
When you have enough food, you may go back to your nest for your baby.
I don't have anything.
We only have one food.
Hey, I'm finding pencils. My pencils food.
No.
That's not on the food.
Okay, everybody sit down. Ashton, do you really think that you need to get that mad? We talk nice to one another. Take a seat. Clayton. Pencils were never a part of it, so why don't we apologize to Ashton real quick? Okay? Who was it? Cole, you took her pencil. What were you doing? You were just up in this area?
I was just screwing around and taking a pencil. They asked me a question.
So Cole, you did not realize this was hers? Let's continue on with the lesson. Those of you that were acting as birds with your beaks, I want you to think about what type of food was easiest for you to use and what types of food you struggled with. Let's start with the birds that have mitten beaks. For a mitten beak, which would be a large beak, what was easy to pick up? And I've got my mitten beak right here. Yes.
On the paper, I noticed when I was trying to grab the
Those are pipe cleaners?
pipe cleaners, it was really hard because it kept, like, it so small, it kept wanting to fall out. But the paper was easy.
So little skinny things the mitten beak didn't do as well with, but large items it could grab quickly. Anyone else with a mitten beak that would like to share their experience? Keely?
The crumbled up paper was easier to pick up because it's not the pipe cleaners and it's not hard to pick up. And this kind of paper that's thin, it wasn't hard to pick up because I could just grab it. But this stuff is hard because it wanted to slip out.
Now
It's smaller.
Let's put on our thinking caps. What might the large pieces of paper represent in the real world for a type of bird? What would be big and large that certain birds would be eating that they would need a mouth that is shaped more like a mitten than a tweezer? Cassie?
Like bread.
What is it?
Like bread.
Bread, so human food. I know pigeons, I'll see them hanging around where humans are, like at a park, and they'll want food. Think even big, larger. Yeah.
Large nuts, because they'd start cracking them open with their larger beaks. They'd crack them open, then once they got them open, they'll take the nut, and they'll fly back to their nut.
You guys are still thinking of birds in a vegetarian sense, but you're right. Nuts are absolutely eaten by birds as well. They're sharp little beaks.
Large.
Think about carnivores. Oh, this is a word we talked about before. Yes, Alex.
They sometimes can eat fruit, but meat. I saw one bird found a dead squirrel and they kept pecking at it.
Especially like scavengers, like vultures and buzzards. Okay, what about some live meat? Is there any kind of birds that will attack live animals?
Ducks will grab fish out of the water and flip over
And like pelicans? Okay. And I was thinking of something. Those are going to have, I'll show you a picture of a pelican. They're more like this. What's something that's going to have a really sharp beak for killing animals, maybe mid-flight while they're in the air? They swoop down. Yeah. Eagles is what I was thinking.
But they can fly
from field rats from a mile away.
Well, they're going to be, I'm going to show you what a real tweezer beak looks like in a minute. What about the tweezer beaks now? You led us right to there, Mason. What was easy to pick up? Somebody that had a tweezer beak. They're going to be like this, long and skinny. Clayton?
Something that was easy were the two pipe cleaners that were under the book is because how it was and tweezer beaks are skinny. So we can get right in there easily and pull it out and go.
So you can get in hard to reach places with a long, skinny beak. You're adapted to that type of food. What would be long and skinny and maybe slide around that you would want to get to feed your babies? Katie? Snakes could work. I'm thinking of something even smaller but has a similar shape. Josh?
Worms.
Worms, earthworms. Can you think of a bird that eats earthworms? I saw one yesterday at the cemetery. Travis? They could as well. What was the one we saw at the cemetery?
Robin.
A robin, right? The red-breasted robin. Okay, he really mentioned the fact that there's a certain type of bird that's going to look even more like a tweezer than an eagle. An eagle can go after large animals. A robin can go after earthworms. And then a type of bird, they're going to have a really long beak to get into something. And they even make feeders that fit with this type of beak. My mother has some in her garden. And these birds are all around Ohio this time of the year. Then they'll migrate south. Kenzie?
I know what it is.
You can see there, Josh. Somebody that wants to help her out. They're small. Braden?
Finch.
A finch. I'm thinking of something even smaller, that the beak is really long and skinny. I'm going to pull some pictures up. Hold on, I'm going to pull some pictures up on the smartboard so we can get some clues. Sarah. A hummingbird.
Crane. Flamingo.
Josh, what time are we at right now?
13 minutes and 13 seconds.
Perfect. Okay, so we're going to look up here and look for bird beaks that have been adapted over time that look more like a tweezer and some that would look more like a mitten shape. Oh, let me close that. Okay, this is even going to tell us what food they eat. Let's have somebody I haven't heard from today. Ashton Jones, tell me where I should click on. Describe it or tell me what square it is. This one?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is some red bird. The beak is pointed. It's fairly long, but not totally. This is a woodpecker, okay? And it uses its beak like a drill, and it bores, that means digs holes into the bark and trees to get out what? What are they looking for in the tree?
Insects.
Insects, very good. Ariana, choose another bird for us. The flamingo. I always like seeing those at the zoo. The flamingo has a short, down-curved beak. It's used for separating mud and silt from shellfish and algae. Ariana, do you know what algae is? Have you ever been in a pond and it has that yucky green stuff all over, either on the top or you can feel it all around? That's algae. Yeah, it's kind of slimy. Okay. Another one, Nicole.
The second one?
This one? Yeah, that's got the sharp beak. It's an eagle. Short, strong beak with hooked upper jaw for tearing flesh. Talked about that, like a little rodent. Yes, it's a carnivore. Good. Erica.
It's at the very bottom of the eagle.
Okay. This is a heron. Long, thick, spear-like beak. It uses it like a spear and it stabs the fish. Also, it stabs frogs and shellfish. And then it lifts them out of the water before swallowing them. Kennedy.
The first one in the second row.
First one in the second row. That's our pelican. Long, flat beak or bill with the tip. It's like a shovel, and it's sweeping back and forth through the shallow water to get small fishies. And then we have our hummingbird here, that it will stick its long beak into the nectar, and it will get the nectar out of the flower. Let's take this even further. Forget about, there's more, I know, there's more. Forget about birds for a second. Let's say that I want to build an aquarium. And I want the aquarium to have all different types of fish in it. And I don't want them to die. I want them to live together in this fish tank. So how can I do that based on the needs of the fish? Because you would think you put all these in there, they're all going to fight for the same food and some will die. But what starts to happen? Clayton?
They start adapting to the same thing, but you can also look up their aquarium mates.
Yes.
Who they like to agree with, and who they'll agree and share food with, to closely related or multi-related fish. So they all don't fight at the same time.
So, to take what Clayton's saying, and tell me if I'm wrong, Clayton, some fish can live together, but they won't share food. They eat different things.
That is true. Certain fish will share the same thing, but not all of them will share the same thing. They'll eat different things. Their fish out can sit there sucking on algae.
Yes.
But their fish mates might be the fish that can swim all around. Just eating.
You're stealing the thoughts right out of my head. Clayton, can I take what you said and go with that? Let's say I've got my aquarium and there's algae along the bottom, and I want to buy a fish that has a mouth opening that's adapted to sucking off the algae. What would that mouth look like? Brayden?
It kind of look flat.
Flat?
And it would like stick to the walls or at the bottom.
Can anybody describe, what was that word you used with an S? Yeah, like a suction type of mouth that can go along and take out the algae. It's adapted to that type of food. Yeah, well, catfish is a little different, but it has one of those big mouth openings, doesn't it? Going back to birds, we're going back and forth with our animals. So based on what you told me, hummingbirds live in Ohio, yes or no?
Yes.
Robins live in Ohio, yes or no?
Yes.
Eagles live in Ohio, yes or no?
Yes.
There are eagles in Ohio. Those three birds live in Ohio, share the same space, but are adapted to eat different foods. Remember we talked about that, Clayton? So they survive very well because one eats worms, one eats nectar, one eats small animals, and so on. Any questions? Clayton.
Well, I have a response.
Sure.
Because why they all get along so well? Well, obviously they just eat different things.
They do eat different things, so they're not competing in that
They're
way.
not competing for anything, but a little bit of the robin and maybe so the eagle. Because if the eagle has nothing else to eat or can't find anything else, it might just go for the worms. But still, maybe.
Yeah, they're usually going to look for rodents.
Yeah.
Sometimes animals will compete for like shelter, like where they're going to build their nest and so on. But even with that, some birds build their nests in different places than others. I'm going to stop us here for right now, just because we've got to get moving on to other things. I want to really thank those of you that acted like birds today. Give yourselves a pat on the back. And the audience members, I know you didn't get to participate, but thanks for being a good audience. What I'm going to do, let's have someone who did not get to be a bird.
I didn't get to
Brayden will pick up the tweezers. Ariana will pick up the mittens. Ashton Jones will pick up the food. Thank you.
Want me to just use the cup for the tweezers? How do I? Want me to use the cup for the tweezers, Miss Foust?
Yes, you can do that.
I only got 2
Still going.